Imagine witnessing an $8,000 jackpot on a slot game. The room erupts, lights strobe, the audience cheers wildly, and the lucky player shouts in ecstasy. Yet, casino staff conceals a crucial detail. That monetary prize was determined 3 milliseconds before the spinning display even began. Once you grasp the inner workings of these devices, your perception of slot machines will be fundamentally altered. An ex-slot engineer is prepared to disclose the precise mechanisms governing every single rotation, result, and monetary unit fed into these games. This information isn't speculative. It constitutes the actual coding, the true operations, and the covert infrastructure that gambling establishments have protected for many years. Upon completing this presentation, you will possess a deeper understanding of slot operations than 99% of patrons entering the casino floor. Before proceeding, consider this question. While the reels are in motion, do you believe the machine is actively calculating whether your result will be a payout or a loss? Or is the final outcome fixed before the initial reel halts? Post your response in the comments immediately, as your answer to this query reveals the extent of your knowledge regarding slot machine functionality. Now, let's unveil the reality. Every contemporary slot device relies on an internal computer, microchip. This component functions as the core intelligence, the primary controller, and the arbiter of results. Within this chip operates a system known as the random number generator, or RNG. Grasping the RNG is paramount to understanding slots. This software application continuously produces random sequences, generating hundreds, often thousands, of numbers every second, around the clock, even if the machine is dormant. Ex-engineers verify that this process is ceaseless. A machine might remain untouched and inactive for 6 hours, yet the internal RNG continues to cycle through billions of possible number sets. Consider this scenario. You approach a machine named Fire Diamond Supreme. You deposit cash. You select a $2 wager per play. You initiate the spin. In that precise microsecond, a speed exceeding a blink, occurring even before your digit lifts from the button, the RNG halts. It instantaneously locks in the specific number being generated at that moment. For example, let's use the value 847,391. This value is transmitted to the operational software, which then converts it into real coordinates. The software mandates that the number 2,147,391 corresponds to real 1, stopping at position 47, real 2 at position 112, and real 3 at position 8. Thus, your result is finalized. The machine determines whether you have won or lost before the reels rotate even a millimeter. This next piece of information frequently surprises people. The rotating reels displayed on the screen are essentially decorative. They aren't deceptive in terms of movement, but they hold no decisional power. They merely serve as a spectacle, a purely visual diversion. The result was fixed the moment your button press registered. All subsequent action, the slow rotation, the suspenseful deceleration of the final reel, the alignment of symbols, is sophisticated animation intended solely to heighten anticipation. Veteran technicians who serviced these devices for years explain that the mechanism could instantly display the outcome within half a second, but such a rapid reveal would diminish the player's enjoyment. Consequently, manufacturers code-detailed spinning sequences to create the illusion of ongoing action and the perception of drama and potential. However, it is entirely performative. The conclusion was reached prior to the commencement of the display. Recall every instance you watched, that last reel dragged to a stop, your pulse racing, desperately wishing for the grand prize symbol. The machine was already aware. It determined your loss before the reel began its final rotation. If you won, it also knew that outcome beforehand. You exerted absolutely no power or impact. Your action merely captured the number the RNG was producing at that specific, arbitrary point in time. That process summarizes the entirety of the game mechanics. Naturally, you may inquire how the RNG differentiates between numerical outputs resulting in prizes and those leading to losses. The answer lies in the PARS sheet. Each individual slot game is governed by a PAR sheet, a meticulous structural plan devised by the mathematicians and coders during the game's development. The PAR sheet details all symbols across every reel, their frequency of appearance, and the reward associated with each successful alignment. This document constitutes the core confidential equation that defines a machine's generosity or stinginess. Allow us to illustrate the mechanism. Suppose you are using a traditional 3-reel slot. Visually, you count 22 potential stops on the physical reel, including cherries, bars, sevens, and empty spaces. You might conclude that since there's one jackpot 7, your probability of hitting it on this reel is roughly 1 in 22. This is inaccurate. That assumption is the deception casinos encourage. The 22 visible stopping points are digitally linked to what is termed a virtual reel, which remains unseen by the player. Prior slot programmers disclose that depending on the designer's specification, this invisible virtual reel might contain 64, 128, 256, or even 512 positions. Consequently, the random number generated by the RNG selects a location on the virtual reel, entirely bypassing the physical reel you are observing. To clarify this with a concrete case, the jackpot 7 visible on the hardware reel might be represented by only 2 slots out of 256 on the virtual reel. Conversely, the blank space immediately adjacent to it could be assigned 40 positions out of 256. Therefore, your true chance of hitting the jackpot 7 is not 1 in 22, as your observation suggested, but rather 2 in 256, equating to approximately 1 in 128. The system then instructs the visible reel to align with the symbol designated by that virtual position. When the blank space lands, you perceive it as a near miss, thinking, "I almost had it. The jackpot was right there." Yet, numerically, you were nowhere near winning. That losing blank occupied 20 times more virtual slots than the high-value jackpot icon. The feeling of almost winning you just experienced was an intentional design feature. A quick query. Have you observed that jackpot indicators and high-value icons frequently appear on the first and second reels, only for the third reel rarely to match them? This pattern is not chance. It is deliberate coding. Please comment below if you recognize this occurrence. I am interested to gauge how many individuals have been duped by this strategy. I will share the story of Richard, a programmer who spent 8 years with a leading slot machine producer. He detailed how they intentionally assign different weights to the reels. For instance, the jackpot symbol might be linked to 10 virtual positions on the first reel, 8 on the second, but only 2 on the third. This configuration fosters the persistent belief that a win is imminent. Landing 2 jackpot symbols triggers a dopamine rush, making your brain anticipate a massive payout. Then the third reel displays an empty space, and you feel disappointed, yet encouraged. You rationalize, "I was nearly there." Next spin, prompting continuous play. This specific emotional reaction is precisely what the developers aimed to achieve. Richard revealed they execute thousands of trial runs to refine the perception of the near miss, not so frustrating that you stop playing, but compelling enough to ensure you continue pursuing the win. We now turn our attention to RTP, or Return to Player. This figure represents the total proportion of funds wagered that the machine is configured to repay throughout its operational existence. Should a device possess a 92% RTP, it signifies that across millions of game cycles, it is designed to return $92 for every $100 invested. The remaining $8 constitutes the casino's advantage, its assured profit margin. Previous casino managers emphasize the precise definition and limitations of RTP. This metric is a calculation based on extended activity, spanning hundreds of thousands or even millions of individual plays. The results of your personal gaming session bear no weight on this figure. A persistent misconception among players is believing that a 95% RTP machine guarantees them $95 back from a $100 session investment. This is fundamentally incorrect. You might insert 100 answers, and the machine could consume the entire amount within 15 minutes, yielding no significant prizes. Conversely, you could risk $20, achieve a bonus feature on the third spin, and depart with $300. RTP dictates the overall mathematical mean across time, not the specific outcome of your brief experience. Technicians responsible for maintaining these slots regularly observe patrons winning large sums alongside others who lose their entire bankrolls just as frequently. Eventually, the statistics inevitably conform to the predetermined RTP setting, yet, in any isolated moment, unpredictability reigns. What frustrates casino staff is the knowledge that most patrons fail to grasp this concept. When players witness a $5,000 payout, they assume the machine is due to continue rewarding. They then sit down and invest heavily, anticipating comparable returns. However, that $5,000 prize represents a single result within millions of possible outcomes. The machine is not undergoing a hot streak. It is simply functioning randomly. The subsequent player might easily lose $1,000 within an hour on the identical machine. Since the losses often go unobserved, the perception of success is amplified, which sustains continued engagement. Next, we discuss volatility, a vital concept for comprehending why certain machines rapidly deplete your funds while others allow extended playtime. Volatility, or variance, dictates the structure of prize distribution. A machine exhibiting low volatility rewards often, but the amounts are modest. You may receive 25 cents here, 50 cents there, perhaps 5 for an advantageous spin. These devices are configured to provide numerous minor successes, maintaining engagement and conserving your bankroll over a longer period. This frequent action provides a psychological sense of constant progress. Yet, upon comparing your cumulative wagers against your total returns, you discover you are still incurring losses, albeit at a reduced pace. Conversely, high volatility machines are unforgiving. These games offer the largest jackpots, complex feature rounds, and enormous possible prizes, yet they can run 150, 200, or even 300 rounds without yielding any significant result. Your funds vanish quickly due to successive non-winning plays. Past floor supervisors routinely witness this phenomenon. A patron initiates play on a highly volatile title, such as Dragon Fury or Mega Empire. They start with $300. Within 45 minutes, their balance drops to $80, having activated no bonus features. They experience frustration and anxiety, unsure whether to withdraw or continue. Then they hit a bonus that pays $220. Instantly revitalized, they feel momentum building and resume playing. 60 minutes later, that $220 has been lost, along with an additional $100 from their own money. They leave with an overall loss of $180. Crucially, they only recall that single large bonus moment. That memory is what persists, ensuring their return visit. Consider a genuine example. Patricia played a high variance slot named Aztec Gold continuously for 3 hours, wagering 3 per spin, meticulously recording her outcomes. During that time, she inserted $900 via her initial stake and subsequent deposits. She activated the bonus feature 4 times. The rewards were $45, $38, $62, and the final, most substantial bonus, $280. She exited the game with $125 remaining. When questioned by her spouse about her success, she replied, "Quite well. I got a $280 bonus." She omitted the fact that her net loss amounted to $775. Her focus centered exclusively on the large reward, mentally suppressing all her losses. Ex-employees note that this is the predominant psychological distortion they encounter. Players retain memories of maximal highs while discarding all other data. I challenge you now to recall your last slot session. Can you remember your largest single win? And can you accurately state your total net loss for that entire session? Answer truthfully in the comments. The majority cannot recall the loss figure. We will now discuss the differential weighting applied to symbols across individual reels. This mechanism, largely ignored by players, is essential for understanding the perpetual sense of being close to a win. Slot designers intentionally avoid uniform symbol placement. The opening reel is assigned a greater likelihood of displaying high-value icons. The second reel possesses a moderate likelihood, while the third, fourth, or fifth reels are assigned significantly lower probabilities. This technique produces a domino effect. You frequently achieve 2 or 3 matching symbols, but the necessary final symbol rarely materializes. Let's use a concrete illustration. Imagine playing a 5-reel game called Treasure Quest, where the top prize icon is a golden crown. On reel 1, the golden crown might occupy 8 out of 128 virtual positions. On reel 2, 6 out of 128. On reel 3, 4 out of 128. Reel 4, 3 out of 128. And reel 5, only 1 out of 128. Consequently, you will frequently see 2 or 3 golden crowns land early. Your excitement builds. You anticipate the jackpot. Then, reel 4 displays nothing, or reel 5 lands on a different icon. This was a programmed near miss, not the result of random misfortune. It was calculated probability performing precisely as intended. The statistical likelihood of securing all 5 golden crowns was always substantially lower than what your visual perception suggested. Carlos, an ex-technician, once outlined the procedure for coding these real biases. He explained that developers first determine the optimal near-hit frequency. How often should the user feel close to a major win? Perhaps every 20 plays. They then calibrate the virtual reel weightings to achieve this specific rate. Numerous simulations are run. If the tests showed near misses occurring too frequently, e.g. every 15 spins, adjustments were made. If it was every 30 spins, they revised the weights in the opposite direction. All variables are computed to maximize player retention without excessive payout. Carlos noted that the consistent objective is to maintain player attendance for the longest duration, encouraging them to keep funding the device while pursuing a large prize that, statistically, may not materialize during their visit. Casinos strategically omit this vital information. Two adjacent slot machines, visually indistinguishable, sharing the same title, name, and visual design, may operate using entirely separate parse sheets. One machine might be configured for a 94% RTP and moderate volatility, while the twin next to it is set for an 88% RTP and high volatility. Despite their identical exterior, one is considerably less generous. The sole method to ascertain this discrepancy is by examining the pay table, and even this data often confuses the average player. Previous slot directors confirmed that they position the less generous versions of popular titles in high traffic zones, such as near entryways, buffets, or the cashier cage. The reason: these machines attract continuous play, irrespective of their payout history. Patrons spot a familiar name, notice the machine is open, and begin wagering without any further inquiry. A quick assessment. The next time you visit a gambling establishment, will you review the payout schedule before commencing play, or will you simply occupy the first available machine? Share your candid answer in the comments. It's time to dismantle certain myths that cost gamblers significant money. Myth 1. Machines cycle through hot and cold phases. Many people sincerely believe that a machine that just awarded a large jackpot will enter a period of minimal payout, or conversely, that a machine dormant for hours is due for a win. Both propositions are mathematically unsound. Every spin operates independently. The RNG produces a new random number for each play, entirely disconnected from prior outcomes. Engineers who developed these systems confirm unequivocally that the machine possesses no recall function. It does not register a recent $3,000 payout, nor does it know if it has been dry for 2 hours. It generates random numbers, spin after spin after spin, with exactly the same odds every single time. If someone hits a $10,000 jackpot and walks away and you sit down at that machine, your very first spin has the exact same odds of hitting the jackpot as the spin that just paid out. The machine doesn't need to recover money. It doesn't work that way. But casinos love this myth because it affects player behavior in profitable ways. Players avoid machines that just paid out. So those machines sit empty, generating zero revenue. Meanwhile, players flock to machines that haven't paid in a while, feeding money into them, chasing a win that isn't any more likely to happen than it was 1,000 spins ago. Myth 2. Specific times of day or days of the week influence payouts. This belief is stubbornly held. Gamblers insist that establishments decrease payouts on busy weekend evenings, Friday and Saturday, and increase them during quiet weekday periods, like Tuesday afternoons. This is incorrect. Slot programming remains constant around the clock, 7 days a week. The RNG is oblivious to the clock, indifferent to whether it is New Year's Eve or a standard Wednesday in February. Former IT executives overseeing casino systems clarified that altering a machine's settings necessitates physical access, chip replacement, or software modification, and often involves reporting to regulatory bodies. Casinos do not undertake these procedures daily or weekly in response to crowd levels, while settings might be adjusted a few times annually based on long-term performance data. The notion that machines are adjusted according to visitor volume is entirely fabricated. Myth 3. Using your loyalty club card decreases your winning chances. This is among the most preposterous assertions, yet it is fiercely believed. Patrons imagine that inserting their rewards card signals the machine to reduce payouts to avoid granting complimentary points. This belief is illogical. The Players Club system and the RNG operate on entirely distinct platforms. The card monitors wagering purely for granting rewards. It holds zero influence over the random number generator. Former network engineers who designed these casino infrastructures verify that the card reader and the game software are completely isolated. The machine lacks knowledge of your identity. It doesn't distinguish between a major gambler and a novice visitor. Every spin's randomness remains unaffected by the presence or absence of the card. If anything, foregoing the card means wasting potential benefits. You wager the identical sum under the same odds, yet receive no compensation in free play, points, or perks. Previous loyalty managers suggest this constitutes the greatest voluntary concession players make to the casino. They abstain from using their cards due to superstition, thereby saving the casino the expense of the rewards they would have otherwise been obligated to provide. Myth 4. Utilizing the physical handle instead of the spin button alters your probabilities. Traditional gamblers strongly prefer the handle, assuming a physical timing component grants them an edge. No such advantage exists. Actuating the handle or pressing the button merely transmits a command to the RNG to instantly pause and record the currently generated number. That is the extent of the action. The RNG cycles through potential outcomes hundreds of times per second. The physical mechanism you choose for input is entirely insignificant. You are simply instructing the system when to finalize the result, while the handle offers a more tactile experience, leading manufacturers to include it for sentimental reasons. Statistically, the result is identical. Now, let's trace the precise events occurring during one cycle of play to reveal the full mechanism. You are seated at a 5-reel, 40 payline video slot named Phoenix Rising, wagering $2.50 per play. You engage the spin button. What transpires next is rapid. The continuously operating RNG locks instantly the moment your command is received. It captures 5 distinct random values corresponding to each reel. Assume these values are 89, 234, 12, 177, and 64. Each numerical output maps to a location on the specific virtual reel corresponding to the physical display. The software consults the par sheet. Value 89 on reel 1 translates to a phoenix symbol. Value 234 on reel 2 translates to a scatter symbol. Value 12 on reel 3 translates to a wild symbol. Value 77 on reel 4 translates to a low-tier gem symbol. Value 64 on reel 5 translates to a second scatter symbol. The machine's programming then scrutinizes all 40 pay lines based on these resulting symbol placements. Has a winning sequence been established? In this specific instance, yes. The 3 scatter symbols activate the free spins feature, granting 12 bonus rounds. The software also determines a minor $3 win on the 7th pay line of the base game. All of this evaluation happened in less time than it takes you to blink. Simultaneously, the animated reels on the screen commence their visual rotation. They slow dramatically. Reel 1 stops, Phoenix. Reel 2 stops, Scatter. Reel 3 stops, Wild. Reel 4 stops, Gem. Reel 5 stops, Scatter. The machine signals the activation of free spins using flashing lights and triumphant audio effects. Yet, every moment you observed was fixed prior to the movement of the first reel. The outcome was decided instantly. The reels were just putting on a show. This is what most irritates past slot technicians. Some legacy machines featured skill stop buttons, allowing users to manually halt each reel. Players believed they possessed agency. They felt timing was critical. This was entirely misleading. The RNG had already determined the result before the very first stop button was engaged. The buttons merely bypassed the animation, revealing the already decided outcome sooner. You had absolutely no ability to affect the final symbols. However, manufacturers incorporated skill stops because they instilled a sense of empowerment in the player. They made players think their actions mattered. Psychologically, this perceived control extended the duration of play, despite the control being illusory. We must address progressive jackpots, as these games are responsible for the highest degree of emotional strain. Progressive slots feature a grand prize that increases incrementally with every wager made. A small fraction of each bet, perhaps 1% to 3%, is allocated to this centralized pool. These games frequently link numerous units across various casinos, sometimes spanning multiple regions or states, enabling the jackpot totals to reach millions. This sounds attractive, but there is a major caveat. In order to finance that huge progressive prize fund, the base game's RTP is typically substantially lower than standard slots. You could be playing a machine with an 88% base game RTP versus 94% on a non-progressive variant of the identical game. That 6% disparity is diverted specifically to nourish the jackpot fund. Slot designers disclose that the probability of securing a major progressive jackpot is staggeringly slim, in the range of 1 in 10 million, 1 in 50 million, or even lower. Robert, a technician who maintained megabuck machines in Nevada, cited that the frequency for the grand prize was engineered to be roughly 1 in 49,836-32 cycles. Contemplate that statistic. Nearly 50 million spins. Consider the thousands of dollars players invest without ever nearing the goal. Yet, casinos heavily market progressives because the enormous illuminated total above the machine exerts a captivating effect. Players find the fantasy of a multi-million-dollar win irresistible. A documented instance reveals the devastating potential of progressive games. A player named Gerald devoted 5 years to a Wheel of Fortune progressive slot, visiting the casino 3 times weekly and maintaining meticulous session records. He estimated his total wagers over 5 years at approximately $142,000. His combined standard payouts and bonus returns reached about $89,000, resulting in an overall deficit of $53,000. He persisted because he was certain he was nearing the progressive win, believing increased play improved his probability. That's not how probability works. His chance on the first spin was exactly the same as his chance on the 50,000th spin. He never secured the jackpot. When his wife eventually learned the scale of his financial ruin, it led to a personal crisis. Gerald ceased playing. 4 months later, a different patron won the progressive prize on a machine at that same location, having played for under 2 hours. Gerald sacrificed 5 years and $53,000 pursuing a prize someone else claimed in a single afternoon. The reality of progressive machines is this: you are essentially purchasing a lottery ticket with poorer odds than the official lottery, while simultaneously incurring a substantial cost on every spin via diminished base game returns. When engaging with progressives, recognize that you are primarily contributing funds to a pot from which you are highly unlikely to benefit. And here's another cruel twist. Many progressive machines require maximum bet to qualify for the grand prize. If you bet below the maximum requirement and the jackpot symbols align, you forfeit the millions advertised, receiving instead a minor consolation payment that is a tiny fraction of that amount. Past pit bosses have witnessed patrons successfully landing the jackpot sequence without the maximum bet, leading to extreme distress upon realizing they secured only $500 instead of $5 million. The regulations were displayed, and the machine gave warnings, but they were ignored or misunderstood. Brutal. Next, let's examine bonus rounds and the illusion that they represent an unexpected gift. Contemporary video slots are replete with sophisticated bonus features, free spins, enhanced by multipliers, interactive pick and click options, wheel spins, expanding wild symbols, cascading reels, and many others. These features are highly engaging, providing the sense of participating in a video game rather than a mere gamble. However, developers operate with hidden knowledge. Bonus rounds are factored into the total RTP calculation. They are not an additional reward, nor a display of casino benevolence. They are a component of the mathematical formula, precisely computed to the decimal point. The machine may suppress rewards during standard play, in anticipation of delivering a more substantial bonus payoff later, but ultimately, the returns will always normalize to the fixed RTP. Ex-developers state that bonuses are engineered to activate at a rate sufficient for sustained player involvement, but infrequent enough to prevent excessive payouts. The optimal range for most titles is activating roughly once every 80 to 150 spins. This frequency offers enough encouragement for players to maintain their pursuit, yet requires them to commit significant funds between bonus events. Furthermore, many bonuses employ a subtle psychological tactic. They are designed to exaggerate the perceived value of the payout. Suppose you activate a free spins round, earning 15 complimentary plays. During those spins, you accumulate $95 in gross winnings. The machine generates excitement with celebratory lights and audio, leaving you feeling victorious. But think about the math. At a $2 per spin wager, those 15 free spins represent $30 in avoided costs. Thus, your true net gain from the feature is $95 minus $30, yielding $65. The machine obscures this calculation, displaying only the $95 gross total, convincing you of a substantial win. Concurrently, you probably invested $180 just to trigger the bonus initially, so you're still down $115 overall. Yet, your mind focuses on the $95 figure. That positive anchor is what lasts, motivating continued play. Consider this. Have you ever concluded a slot session convinced you were ahead, only to later review your finances and discover you incurred a loss? Respond with yes or no in the comments below. Let's review the elements you genuinely have command over during slot play. You cannot govern the RNG, dictate any spin result, forecast a payout timing, or influence the symbols displayed. Nevertheless, 3 factors remain within your authority, representing your sole actual leverage. First, the selection of the machine you play. Second, the amount of your wager per spin. Third, the precise moment you choose to quit. That's it. These are your only actionable choices. Ex-casino personnel, having witnessed all categories of gamblers, assert that the successful players, those who derive enjoyment without financial devastation, are defined by self-control. They establish a rigid spending limit before starting. They seek out machines with reputable posted RTPs, ideally 94% or greater if they can find them. They match the machine's volatility to their financial capacity and preferred pacing. They play methodically. They take periodic 30 to 45-minute mental breaks. And most importantly, they operate with a fixed threshold for both loss and profit realization. Upon reaching either figure, they exit without deviation. These individuals view slot machines as a recreational expense. They calculate how much they are willing to pay for a few hours of amusement, similar to buying tickets for a show or a fine meal. They accept the likelihood that the funds will be lost. If they happen to win, that's a bonus. But they never entertain the delusion of defeating the mechanism or outsmarting the coding. They grasp that the arithmetic is definitive. The house advantage exists. They're not going to overcome it with any strategy or system. Their single asset is restraint. The troubled players embody the reverse behavior. They aggressively pursue money they have already lost. When they rely on folklore and baseless beliefs, they engage in emotional wagering. They think they're due for a win. They rationalize that the next spin will yield the grand prize. They fail to quit when winning because of greed. They fail to quit when losing because of the urge to recover funds. They have no plan, no limits, no discipline, and the machine eats them alive. Past slot directors acknowledge that these patrons represent the casino's primary revenue source. They're predictable, emotional, and they stay at machines far longer than they should, continually feeding money in long after the fun has stopped. Therefore, here is your comprehensive strategy for your future slot machine engagement. First, fully accept and internalize the fact that every play is arbitrary and unconnected to prior events. The machine retains no data on history, exhibits no predictable sequence, and possesses no due results. It only produces random numbers generated by a computer chip. Second, recognize that the result of every spin is fixed instantaneously upon your button press. The visible reels are purely animated. The decision occurs within milliseconds. What you see spinning is theater. Third, consistently examine the pay table before playing. Ensure you comprehend the published RTP if it's posted, the volatility level, and the reward values for specific symbols. Don't assume outwardly identical machines share settings. Fourth, establish an unyielding budget and adhere to it strictly. Decide the maximum you're willing to lose before starting. Never exceed that amount, not even by $1. Fifth, if you achieve a substantial win, maybe you double your money or secure a nice bonus. Immediately withdraw at least half of the proceeds. Don't give it all back to the machine. The temptation will be massive to keep playing, but that's how winners turn into losers. Sixth, always use your player's club card every single time. There's no downside, and you're earning comps on money you're betting anyway. Don't believe the myths. And seventh, if the activity ceases to be enjoyable, if you feel irritated, anxious, or angry, cease playing immediately. Slots are a form of entertainment. The moment the entertainment ends, the game must conclude. Walk away. Now, I want to hear from you. After learning exactly how slot machines work, has your viewpoint shifted? Will you alter your playing strategy next time? Or does the information not matter because you play purely for enjoyment anyway? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how this information lands with people. If this video opened your eyes to how slots actually work behind the scenes, hit that like button. If you want more insider casino secrets that most players never learn, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And share this video with anyone you know who plays slots. The more people who understand the real mechanics, the better decisions everyone can make. Because at the end of the day, slot machines are programmed to take your money. That's their job. That's what they were designed to do. The house always wins in the long run because the math guarantees it. But in the short run, with the right approach, you can have fun, maybe get lucky, and walk away without getting crushed. Just remember that the RNG doesn't care about your story. It doesn't care about your luck, your timing, or your hopes. It only cares about generating random numbers. And once you accept that reality, you'll never look at those spinning reels the same way again. Play smart, stay disciplined, and good luck out there.